taxes. We do not want to see that they put themselves put all their assets in a taxable account, because a lot of time what people do, they put all their assets in one basket, and that basket is a taxable basket, and they don't even know that, because what folks would
Absolutely.
say sometimes, well, the money is my 401k, so if I don't touch it before 59 and a half, I don't have to pay taxes. And I had to sit back and kind of like smile a little bit and say, yeah, you don't have to pay a penalty, a 10% penalty, but you still have to pay taxes. Uncle Sal's not going to let you off without paying the taxes. So, but if you have all your money in a 401k and IRA, you are 100% going to have to pay taxes. So the money, if you have $1 million, it's not all yours. A portion of it belongs to Uncle Sam. Hello and welcome to the Smart Business Owner Podcast with your host Schubert. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Smart Business Owner Podcast. This is your host Schubert, and this week we're gonna do things a little bit different. And I have with me Lydia, and Lydia is here to interview me on my podcast. So Lydia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Schubert. So I'm Lydia DiLiello of Capital Pricing Consultants, and Schubert was kind enough to interview me last week. And so I'd like to flip the script on him and give Schubert a chance to be the person being interviewed for a change on his own podcast. So Schubert, welcome to your own podcast.
Well, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
So, Schubert, today, what I'd like to share with the financial world, how you decided to venture into this career. So, why don't you tell us really kind of what started, what you are doing currently, and then how you got into the career?
Very good question. So, the way my career started in finance. I was working at a bank way back when, since the year 2000. So, uh, originally from the island, so I was working at a bank here. Moved to the state around 2004, and during that time, I wasn't working in finance. I was working in uh, the sales industry, service related. And I have people that know about my background, and they kept approaching me and say, "Hey, I think you would do great being an advisor." But at that time, I had just started a company, Pro Medical, and we were helping hospitals and doctors, with medical devices. So I was running my company, and I was not too interested in just changing everything all at once. But 2017, I believe, a very good friend of mine that knew me and approached me again and said, "Hey, I think you should give this a try. You're probably thinking it's an employee position, but it's you own your own business. You do everything yourself. So I think you should maybe take a second look at it." And I did, and I ended up going to work for one of the largest insurance and broker dealer in the country, Northwestern Mutual, which most people probably have heard of. And that's how I got back to the financial planning world. And I was at Northwestern for about 5 years. Then after that, I changed to a smaller broker dealer. Uh, and then I started my own company, and my company, Modern Edge Capital. We recently created that. So we have some partnerships that we have with different insurance company and also different uh, registered investment advisors. So that's the backdrop of my background.
And Schubert, what made you decide that you really wanted to go out on your own?
So although I had my it was the business model was that I was working for myself, but not by myself, partnering with all those different companies. But starting my own branding name, it just gave me more flexibility as far as the product I can offer to my client. And the financial industry, the way things work, if let's just say, for example, you're affiliated with a broker dealer, if something is not approved on their platform, you cannot offer it to your client. So whatever they say, it's okay to offer to the client. That's what you have access to. So there are a lot of companies and a lot of products that you don't have access to them for one reason or another. That doesn't mean that those products are bad. That doesn't mean that those companies that they don't approve are bad. It's just that they don't approve them. And sometimes they may have special deals with a carrier, and they have certain special deals with on a product. So they have them on the platform. Now, I always look at things on the client point of view. If I was a client, would I want to have access to the best product out there, not just what my advisors have access to?
Right.
Because if I happen to have, let's just say, Lydia, you for my advisor, I would want you to have access to all the best products. So when you make a recommendation to me, it's not based on whatever companies you affiliate with allow you to offer to me. And that's was the reason that I did the first change in the first place. When I was with the first broker dealer that I was with, I was really limited. And but when you are independent, it gives you more flexibility.
But to your point, then, the products are not limited because now you can reach out and on their behalf help them to purchase or hold any type of
Yes,
financial modality.
100%. It's like the old saying, if you're doing business with a carpenter or no, a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So if you remove the hammer and then now you say, okay, well, everything looks different now. You can use different tools
Mhm.
to solve the problem. You don't have to hit the thing in the nail in the head because it doesn't look like a nail anymore. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely.
And so, what kinds of products right now does Modern Edge Capital currently help clients with?
Well, it depends. So it depends on what the client needs are. Uh, when I sit down with a client, the first thing I seek to understand is what the client is looking for.
Hmm.
What is the need the client is looking to solve? Once I understand the needs the client needs to solve, I come up with different solutions, and give the client options of, okay, if we do this path, this is what's going to look like. This is going to do this path. This is what's going to look like. And of course, it's a retirement analysis, especially if they're close to retirement or in retirement. So where we're looking at everything the client has and looking at the current scenario that they have as it is, if they choose to do nothing, what it would look like. And if we implement some of the scenarios, some of the product and solutions we bring to the table, he's going to be the end results, and they can see it clearly where they're heading. And also the plan is not something static. So let's just say, for example, may have done a plan 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and some of the things changed. So, for example, the time horizon might change a little bit. Or the client say, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna start traveling now, so we're gonna have to adding some traveling costs to the plan,
Hmm.
and that might change things a little bit." So yeah. So we are not product focused. We are product agnostic, and we offer what's going to be in the best interest of the client.
And so that means then, Schubert, if I understand what you've just explained, it's an opportunity for a client to come to you with an existing portfolio and to say, I'm at this point in my career, and you offer a service of looking at that whole portfolio to say, here's what you look like for retirement, to your point, if we freeze it at this point in time, or if we make these changes, which gives you the opportunity then to build that relationship and make suggestions to a potential client as well. So I think that's a great service that people should be aware of. And I personally think it's never too early to start planning for retirement. And so that kind of leads into the next part of the discussion, Schubert, about who is your targeted client? What kinds of clients do you like to work for or work with, and that you feel you can be the most successful in helping?
So when I started in this career about 8 years ago, we were like pretty much working with anybody and everybody. We just wanted to get the word out there and help everyone. Now, since the last couple of years, I would say. Our targeted segment of the population is the retirees and pre-retirees,
Okay.
and the reason is simple. As I was meeting with folks, especially if they were to refer me to somebody that is a CEO of a publicly traded company, or somebody that CEO or an owner of a privately held company, they would always think that those people were so well taken care of.
Hmm.
And sometimes they would be like, oh, I don't know if that person can need your service. I don't know, because they're pretty successful. And I would insist and say, okay, well, I still want to talk to them to see if there's anything I can do for them, or at the very least, my understanding is business is about people. If they are a successful entrepreneur, I still want to meet them and get to know them and learn maybe a thing or two from them. So when I meet with those folks, come to find out they were well taken care of. And that's why I realized, I said, well, there's a huge problem within, especially the pre-retiree and the retirees, because they are not ready to face what's waiting for them. Because when it comes to retirement or distribution, it's a whole different ball game. For example, somebody is working and you're saving money. I mean, you have an income coming in and you put money in your 401k. Things, the charts completely flip once you start taking money out, because the thing that used to be true, for example, average return, that's one thing that people love doing when you're accumulating asset. However, when it comes to distribution or you're retiring, the switch can be flipping, because average return may not matters as much as they did way back when. So basically, now we focus more on the retirees, and that's why I ended up writing a book. It's called Secrets of Becoming Tax Efficient in Retirement and Creating Guaranteed Income for Life. I wrote the book
I have
because
my
I know
copy
that I
right
want to.
here,
Okay,
Schubert.
great. Thank you for that. So I know I'm not going to have access to all the retirees, all the people that need or to know about how these things work. So I wrote the book. I put the information in the book. It's available. It's available on Amazon. So if anybody is interested, can have access. Okay, how does a qualified plans work? How does a non-qualified information? I put it in a book and make it available to the public. So it's retirement focused, but anybody that looking to learn about how things work, how the finance world work, all those different jargon that financial advisors or the TV station, the financial CNBC are flowing out. So they have an idea, okay, what these people are talking about when they're flowing these terms out, and all those uh, uh, features this product has, and what to look for when somebody come up with an idea to them.
So, Schubert, there were some things you said that I found really insightful and I would like to go back to. So, the first of which is when you talked about the CEO you met with and you found out that that person actually needed more help in their retirement planning than anyone had assumed by their position. Um, do you often find that professional people can be so busy earning their money that they are not taking the time to plan for retirement and thinking they'll get to it and then they just never really get to it?
Yeah, so that's a very, very good question, because believe it or not, Lydia, this is exactly what happened. Especially with very successful professionals, they spend all the time doing what they do best, which is running the business or taking care of other folks. But everything that is important to their lives get put in the back burner. So those one that have somebody like me, what we do is we take them for about an hour every quarter, or sometimes maybe more often, off the spinning wheel, and then we tell them, look, this is what's going on in your life. This is what we are doing. It's like we check back in with them to make sure that, okay, this is everything is being done. If there's any recommendations, we make the recommendations. If there's any new goals, we add that up, and then they can go back not having to worry about, well, is my family going to be taken care of, am I going to be taken care of in retirement? Give you an example without getting into details. I had a CEO came to me. he had about uh, just a little bit south of $2 million saved in a non-qualified account. And he thought he was doing pretty good. And then to find out, we were able to come up with an income plan for him, a distribution plan. But he was, I would say, just making it as far as having like a comfortable life as far as what he was envisioning of living. It was not, it was over, it was overly, because once we draft the plan for him, we show will, but that just goes to show you, even, millionaires, they think that they don't need planning, do need it the most. Because when we put, pen to paper, it's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different story.
And so it's not just about how much someone has in their retirement account or if they're starting out, but it's very much about the planning and the goal setting and the reviewing with you on a continuous basis. And you had referenced, I think, on a previous comment, that your book is really gives people an opportunity to review terms. And you and I are going to do a separate podcast specific to the book so that we can really delve into it at a very granular level, because I think it's a huge help for folks to read that before they come and listen to the podcast so they can get the most benefit from it. So I really encourage everyone to pick up a copy of Becoming Tax Efficient in Retirement. Schubert did a fantastic job with this, and really, it's a wonderful outline and guide so that anything you talk about with your investment advisor, you have context for. And then definitely you want to tune in when we do the podcast and go see Schubert so that you can really get the benefit of that retirement analysis to see where you stand, so you don't end up like the multimillionaire who says, oh, and have a boat. That 8% is the difference between maintaining that boat and not maintaining it. So
Yeah.
for all of us, that's a critical piece. Do you find other things that people typically do, Schubert, that are maybe not the best relative to retirement planning or not planning?
Well, a lot of times people have, especially when they don't have a plan in place, they have all those things they want to do. And they don't know if they can afford them or not. For example, talking about the boat, sometimes people say, well, we're millionaires, we're multimillionaires. We can go ahead and buy a boat. But the upkeep, the maintenance of the boat, they not factor these things in until we start, jot down the numbers and drill down and say, well, do we really need that boat? This is what the boat is costing you to have that boat on a yearly basis. And that's the impact over 10, 15, 20 years. So that's one thing. Sometimes when we sit with folks, they have to adjust some of the things that they think that they couldn't live without. Some of the hobbies they have. Sometimes we're not advocating for people not having hobbies. However, when we're looking at the numbers and we say this is what this is costing you, and this is over a 10, 15, 20-year period, these numbers look weird. They don't like what they're seeing. So these are some of typically things that people like to do that don't matter as much when they are working, because at the end of the day, when they are working, they still have an income coming in, and especially if they have bonuses, so they can always use those bonuses to do all these things. But when you stop having an income and you have to create that, it's a whole different ball game, and things all looks a little bit different.
I think those are two great points that you make, Schubert, in terms of working people that are in a situation where they are receiving those bonuses and they've got that monthly income. So if whether it's golf, where it's $150 for 18 holes of golf at their country club, or it's $85 lunches with wine, whatever it is, those expenses get covered, as you say, just sort of in the normal course of the budget, in quotes. But when we sit down and we say 12 months times this dollar amount every month equals, $30,000 at the end of the year, that's incredibly impactful. And then when you say, Well, okay, I'll cut back a little bit, right? And so now it's 20,000 a year, but times 10 years is $200,000. And
Yeah,
so I can absolutely see where when you sit down and you bring it to the level of actually itemizing everything that someone says is important to them, um, it's got to be very eye-opening and impactful for them.
yeah, yeah.
So as you are continuing to build your business right now, do you offer other products such as insurance or life insurance, or do you take care of the client financially in total, or just specifically in investments?
Great question. It doesn't really matter the product to us. So to give you a context, if we're working somebody and we're looking at the needs, for example, if it's a young couple, they want to retire early, whereas they just say they're 52, they have young children. Uh, we want to make sure that the plan is comprehensive. So you can see insurance in the plan if they don't already have that. If they already have the insurance, we just factor that in. If they don't have that, we make the recommendations. And also, we offer that as well. We can help them with that. If they are closer to retirement, we're looking at income. We were looking at guaranteed income, and also we were looking at growth. So we're looking at the whole picture. So anytime I've seen somebody have a plan that is solely based on growth, uh, I I cannot call it a plan for say. It's more like a wish because we all know what market does. Sometimes market goes really, really good, go up, and sometimes not so much. And sometimes there's no reason why the market doesn't go up, other than either an administration make decisions and then things happen in the market. So we want to make sure that, especially if they're closer to retirement, that they're not at completely dependent on market growth. So we want to make sure that we it as comprehensive as possible, and the only way we could do that is to making sure that we have some guaranteed inside of the portfolio, and also make sure that we factor in if somebody passed away prematurely, especially if the young couple, that the other spouse will not be burdened with debt or they have to move. And lastly is taxes. We do not want to see that they put themselves in put all their assets in a taxable account, because a lot of time what people do, they put all their assets in one basket, and that basket is a taxable basket, and they don't even know that, because what folks would
Absolutely.
say sometimes, well, uh, the money is my 401k, so if I don't touch it before 59 and a half, I don't have to pay taxes. And I had to sit back and kind of like smile a little bit and say, yeah, you don't have to pay a penalty, a 10% penalty, but you still have to pay taxes. Uncle Sam is not going to let you off without paying the taxes. So, but if you have all your money in a 401k and IRA, you are 100% going to have to pay taxes. So the money, if you have $1 million, it's not all yours. A portion of it belongs to Uncle Sam.
And I think that's another great point, Schubert, because just getting the education around what each of us has in our portfolios and what it means and what is taxable and what isn't taxable and what the terms mean. And I love that part of the service that you offer to your clients is that it's comprehensive. So you don't just look at here's the stocks, here's the bonds, here's the financial mechanisms, but you look at where are they in life? Are they married or single? What do they need to mitigate in terms of risk in their lives, and how then can you help give them access to those pieces of the puzzle so that you really become a one-stop shop for all of their financial needs in totality. I think that's tremendous because I believe a challenge currently is if you have too many different advisors for too many different things, it's like a puzzle. You never get to see the whole picture. And you are providing an opportunity and the gift of giving your clients the ability to see that total picture. And I think that that's tremendous.
Well, one thing that I would add to that, We're not advocating against having multiple advisors because sometimes it might be a good thing. It all depends how you use it. However, you want those advisors to be connected. You want them to be talking to each other. So you don't, let's just say, for example, sometimes you will see somebody, they will have an insurance guy, somebody that does all their insurance for them, and they have an investment guy that does all their investment. And they may have like an attorney or an accountant that does the taxes. You want to have all these people connected with you being the center of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, you want the insurance person to be talking to not only the tax person, the attorney, and also the guy that does the investment, because the one decision you may make on one side may have negative effects on the other side. So it's okay, especially folks that are uh, well off. They tend to have many advisors, which is totally fine. They just need to make sure that the plan is comprehensive. Number one, and number two, those advisors are talking. So, and they're not giving them contradictory advice, because sometimes what people would do, if an area is not the areas of expertise and they're not well versed in that area, they tend to badmouth that area or say or insurance is bad or investment is bad or this and that, because that's not the area of expertise. They don't understand it. So rather than having the advisors doing something like this, you would rather the advisor tell you that, hey, this is not my area of expertise. I think it's better that you speak with somebody that's specialized, because when it comes to finance, there are so many different areas that advisor can specialize in. And if an advisor is not well versed in the area, you want him to be honest with you and upfront and tell you, hey, insurance is not my forte, or investment is not my forte. Now, there are advisors that are well rounded, that can understand and also can work in all different areas. It all depends on how they started,
Mm-hmm.
and which company they were affiliated with and what product they were primarily focused on. So that allowed them to have a better view of being more comprehensive when it comes to financial planning. So you want to make sure that your advisor uh, do something that's comprehensive for you and taking care of you.
Well, and I believe to your point also, Schubert, that if there are multiple investment advisors involved, you still need a single point to be able to give you that holistic overview. Because when you said, the client really needs to be the center of that universe, the client still may not possess the tools or the expertise to be able to understand and coordinate what three different advisors said. So I think that's another benefit that you bring, which is you're very collaborative. However, you can also serve along with that client as the center for that expertise to say, hey, wait a minute. Okay, it's great. You've got the insurance coverage over here. You're covered. That's good. Continuing to use that advisor. You have additional products over here. That works great. We need to augment here. And so you look at it again in totality rather than just one piece of the puzzle at a time, and then gaps are not seen.
100%. So, for example, especially when I'm working with retirees, they all come to me with at least one or two advisors, because during the time they were saving, they could have like maybe $2 million in their 401k, and they had an advisor that was been working with them, or non-qualified accounts, or they sell their businesses and they have the proceeds. They all come to me with an advisor. What I do is I want to make sure that everything is taken care of. I took a look uh, of all the needs and everything that they have done, and tell them, look, from what you have done here, this advisor did this here, that advisor did that over there. We're gonna keep these in place because there's nothing to be done here. They were well done. This is where the gap is. Let's just fill in the gaps. And sometimes they get to keep some of the advisors. They come to me. I don't tell them to fire the advisor. I just bridge the gap, because a lot of times there's a gap. I just bridge the gap to making sure that that gap is taken care of and that they are taken care of.
And So Schubert, you mentioned qualified and non-qualified plans, and we're going to get into specifics about the book in the next podcast we do together. But since you've mentioned it a few times, for those folks listening and viewing, will you just quickly define the difference between a qualified and a non-qualified plan?
Absolutely. So great question. So when I say qualified, that means I qualified by who? By the IRS. So the IRS and Congress, they have all those plans that are that they have designed. They have tax uh, advantages. So,
Okay.
for example, it could be an IRA, it could be a 403b, a 457, or it could be a Roth IRA. They all have special tax treatment. These are qualified plans because the Congress passed a law and the IRS said they are qualified. And I spoke about that, about all these things in my book, and to
Yes.
help people understand these things. Non-qualified are things that are product that the IRS or Congress say are not qualified and they're not going to have special tax treatment. So, for example, if you do a brokerage account, you can put as much money as you want with it, but you're going to have to pay taxes on it. It could be short-term capital gains, it could be long-term capital gains. It depends on how long the asset's been in there and that type of assets you've been using. Uh, so that's, in a simple term, the difference between qualified and unqualified real estate, non-qualified. If it's homestead, you have a certain deduction on that. So that's that. Very simple.
Thank you. And I'm sure that the viewers and the listeners that were not familiar with those terms will appreciate that as well. So Schubert, kind of as we are wrapping up our discussions here, tell me, I'm sure you have had a lot of clients who have reacted to the volatility in the last, let's say, 6 to 8 months of the stock market.
That's for
And
sure.
I think all of us have at one point or another had our hair on fire, as they say, relative to what the heck's going on, and oh my gosh,
Yeah.
how much did I lose? And speak to that for a few minutes, and kind of what your thoughts are about your personal strategies of investing.
So with the current volatility, one thing that I always say to folks, the markets uh, fluctuates, and sometimes they fluctuates a lot. You know, so it go up, it come down. So when we sit down with clients, the objective is always we're not worrying about the short-term fluctuations. And the reason why we can afford not to worry about the short-term fluctuations, when we do the comprehensive planning, we make sure that we factor that in. For example, one way I always explain to my client, let's just say, for example, today, Lydia, you decide to buy a home. And then you go in, you put your down payment in, and then 30 days later, you acquire a home. If something happened in the market, whereas real estate prices drop by 20% overnight, it doesn't happen in real estate like this. I think 2009 it did, but real estate prices do fluctuate as well. So let's just say the value of the home is 10% less than what you pay for it. And somebody called you, say, hey, Lydia, so you just bought the house for 1.2. I want to offer you $1 million for it. Are you going to sell it?
No.
9 out of 10 is no. Because you bought the house, you have a 30-year mortgage on it, you're not going to worry about the price just dropped 10%. It's the same thing I said to folks, especially when you invest in the market. Your plan cannot be an overnight plan. You see, you see in the latest headlines, either the administration did something or Congress says something, and then the market is reacting to it. You cannot. So that's why you need, in order for you not to worry about it, you have to make sure that your plan is comprehensive. That's number one. Number two, you want to make sure that you have the right advisor in your corner to keep you from harming yourself, because sometimes people harm themselves by doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, and sometimes it's permanent. There's nobody that can undo it. For example, if you have an asset that is has declined and you sell it, once declined for whatever reason, it could be because you needed the fund, or it could be that you were just scared.
Yes.
Even though 2 days later or 2 months later the asset come back up, you banked in that loss permanently. So when you have the right advisor in your corner, it helps you. And I have clients that still manage their own portfolio. where they have one is professionally managed with me, and they have something with them because they say, hey, they love watching the market, and that helps them stay in contact with the market by having a small portfolio they're managing. Sometimes they say, okay, let me see how you do compared to how we do over here. 9 out of 10, we always beat them, but that keeps them engaged. But also, they're not gonna make decisions that they're gonna regret later. If that answers your question.
It did. It answered it very well. And as you say, there's a very big difference between reacting emotionally and then following through with an actual action like cashing something out. And as you mentioned, at that point, it becomes permanent. So it's not a real loss until you actually cash something out. So we all get upset and we look and we say, "Oh my gosh, this month the portfolio went down by 18%." Well, it did on paper, and that's true. But unless
Right.
we actually cash those funds out, then it becomes real loss.
I'll give you another example. For example, let's just say with the thing that we just spoke about here, that not to panic on the short-term fluctuations. Sometimes you don't have a choice. A lot of times
Absolutely.
people think that it's a one-to-one calculation. It's not.
No, it's not.
If you go, if the portfolio go down 25%, you need to go up 33.3% to get back to even. And if you are the very unlucky one and your portfolio, for example, I was looking, there was a stock in the market, about the last couple of weeks, that is down 50%, that one stock. So if you happen to invest in individual stock in the market and it's down 50%, do you know by how much you need the market to go back up in order for you to get back to where you started, to get back to even?
A hundred
100%.
percent. Absolutely.
And if you are in retirement or close to it, and you don't have a comprehensive plan, or you depending on, your income is solely dependent on the market to get income in retirement, and you're down 25%, that's how a lot of people end up running out of money in retirement,
Eh,
because sometimes they need to take the income out, because if even though the assets down, they know they're not supposed to sell, but if you need the money, you need to buy whatever you need to buy to satisfy your expenses. You don't have a choice. And if you don't have a choice, you're going to have to liquidate those assets while those assets, are down.
are in a
And
down position.
because of that reason, you're going to make those loss become permanent.
And I that's going to be a fantastic place to start our conversation in the next podcast, Schubert, in terms of why it's so critical to diversify, why, as you approach retirement, as you started in the beginning of our conversation. So I hope that folks will definitely be looking for the next podcast that comes out that explains all of the concepts in your book, Schubert, about becoming tax efficient in retirement and creating guaranteed income for life. So, on our next podcast, we're going to go through this book in detail. Schubert, anything else you'd like to share with folks before we close out for today?
Well, one thing that I would say to folks is plan for the future, plan for the long term. Even if you are a pre-retiree, you're 55, 60, or you're retired, it's always the long term, because you're going to be living, sometimes you live longer in retirement than you did working, meaning that people tend to have a long life. One another thing that we didn't really touch on was long-term care. People need to make sure that they have a plan for long-term care, because people tend to live longer. Better to prepare to plan for it, and you never need it, it never happened, than not to plan for it and then it does. And just making sure that your plan is comprehensive. The best way for them to do that, they can easily go on our website, modernedgecapitallc.com, and they can book a free consultation. And if they qualify, they will receive the plan for free. And our book is available on Amazon. They can grab a copy. And yeah, that's what I would like to add.
Thank you for adding that in, Schubert, because that really is another critical piece, is how we protect ourselves for unknown events in the future. And so that's, again, part of that holistic offering that you were describing throughout our conversation. It's not just about the portfolio itself, but what else besides stocks and bonds do you have in there? How do you protect yourself with long-term care insurance? What about life insurance? What about mortgage insurance? All of those kinds of things to make sure that the unknowns in life are addressed. And then how do we begin to educate ourselves around not reacting so emotionally to things in the market, but planning for unknowns, and then that gives us more power in our decision making.
And
Well,
one other thing I may add,
please.
Lydia, I feel, because they say, okay, well, Schubert talk about this, Schubert talk about that. This is what's going on in the market right now. And if they have a question, they can always circle back with us. It gives them a peace of mind. They can go on vacation and spend time with the family, eating out with the grandkids, not worrying about running out of money, because they know, okay, there's a plan in place. How much I know exactly how much going to come in, for whatever how long we plan. They have more peace of mind. It's priceless.
And I think that that's such a critical piece of living today, is knowing that we can just go live our lives then with an occasional check-in, rather than never quite knowing where anything is at and waiting for an event to then cause us to be forced to go dig into what we should have been proactive about from the beginning. So
Yeah.
again, Schubert, remind folks how they can find you on the website and apply for that free consultation.
So they can go to Modern Edge Capital, modernedgecapitalllc.com. And from there, from the homepage, they can book an appointment directly on my calendar. And it's free. They don't have to spend anything, and they don't have to do anything after they book the meeting with us. So, and we'll prepare a plan for them for free. And we even give them, see, somebody, booked the meeting and they said they heard about that from that podcast. We'll give them a copy of the book for free.
Fantastic. And if they just want to reach out to you directly, Schubert, what phone number would be the best one for Modern Edge Capital?
So they can reach, actually, they can even reach me on my cell phone, so which is 561-572-7850. I take all calls from all my clients and prospect. Yeah, they can just go on our website and and book an appointment and find. One thing I said to folks, it's better to book an appointment and get a free plan and knowing that, oh, okay, I don't need that. I don't have to worry about that. Everything is taken care of. Then not to book it, thinking that you're all taken care of, and come to find out it's not. Because it's not always about asset, because a lot of times I see folks say, okay, well, I have $2 million, I have $5 million in liquid or asset. I don't have to worry about anything. It's not always about asset, especially when it comes to distribution. It's about income. So we want to make sure that that's there if you want to leave a legacy. Know your options, know your numbers, know your options. That's what I would say to folks. Go there, modernedgecapitalllc.com, and get in touch.
Well, on that note, Schubert, thank you so much for being my guest on your own podcast. And folks, please tune in next time where we will explore Schubert's book further. Bye-bye for now.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Lydia. You did a fantastic job on my podcast interviewing me. So I hope the folks enjoy this conversation. And until next time. You've been listening to the Smart Business Owner Podcast. See you in the next episode.